Hey friend, welcome to Grounded, the Vestibular podcast. I'm Dr. Madison Oak, aka the Vertigo Doctor. I am the vestibular physical therapist who is here to help you with all things dizziness, imbalance, and vertigo. In this podcast, we explore the fascinating world of vestibular disorders. Come with me as we dive headfirst into a journey to discover the mysteries of the brain, the inner ear, and the balance mechanisms that keep us grounded. Whether you've been managing dizziness for one day or 25 years, we're going to get real about what it takes to manage dizziness, handle the anxiety cycle, and thrive, not just survive, with your vestibular disorder. First, I want to remind you that this is never medical advice. Remember, this podcast is for informational purposes only and may not be the best fit for you and your personal situation. It shall not be construed as medical advice. The information and education provided here is not intended or implied to supplement or replace professional medical treatment, advice, and/or diagnosis. Always check with your own physician, medical professionals, and healthcare team before trying or implementing any information found here. Meet me in your coziest chair while we navigate the highs and lows, the twists and turns of the vestibular universe. Welcome to Grounded. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to another episode. I am really excited for this. We're going to be talking about how to survive the holidays with a vestibular disorder. When we find ourselves in the midst of the holiday season, when it should be a time of joy and togetherness and all these commercials of happiness come on TV, I know that for many of you, this time brings unique and different challenges that can make it feel like a whirlwind of festivities, but it can feel really daunting and disorienting for people living with vestibular disorders specifically. I really understand that this can be a daily and seasonal battle for you every single year. So I want to give you as many possible things that you can do to try and manage this, because the way that dizziness and imbalance can impact your life can cause a lot of stress and anxiety. But today, I want you to know that you're not alone, and I'm here to offer you support, care, and of course, solutions. So, in this episode, we are going to explore the strategies and the insights that are going to help you not only survive, but thrive through the holidays this year, even with your vestibular disorder. Practical tips, real life stories of things I've heard people do, which I think are genius, and advice to make the holidays a little bit brighter. So, let's dive in to this podcast episode. So, we all kind of know the challenges. There are holiday parties and scheduling and late nights and lack of sleep and stress and trying to buy people gifts and baking stuff for people and going to people's houses for dinner parties that are out of the normal when maybe you're on a diet where you're sensitive to different things. So, all of these things are very specific and super common. And a patient was literally just telling me the other day, she's like, my aunt is having this holiday party and I'm really stressed about it. And I can't not go because it's like this thing that we do every year. This is the first time I'm going since my vestibular diagnosis. It's really feeling stressful and frustrating to me. And I'm just having a hard time thinking about even going. It's a dinner party setting. My whole family's going to be there. It's going to be like 30 to 40 people, depending on who shows up. What do I do? So let's talk about tips for that situation and everything else that could be happening for you. So we're first going to talk about different strategies for different situations. And what I want to focus on first is navigating crowded spaces. So this can be a crowded space at someone's dinner party. This can be a crowded space at, I don't know, the mall. If you're shopping, it could be really anywhere. But a couple of things that are really helpful here are focusing on a point ahead of you. So a lot of people are like, well, I go into the mall or I go into the store or I try to shop around or whatever, whether it's a grocery store, a store of getting gifts, whatever it is. And you're like, I don't even know where to look. If you feel like you don't even know where to look, just pick any old point on the wall ahead of you and walk towards it. Generally, when we're walking, we should be looking about 10-ish feet ahead of us down at an angle, but you can either choose. I know someone likes to use gum on the sidewalk as her pointer, but just kind of choose something in your vicinity at eye level that you can stare at and fixate your focus on that thing until you get to where you need to go. This is going to help you kind of make everything feel a little bit more consolidated, a little bit easier to be able to like figure out the surroundings around you. And I do always encourage people to use their peripheral vision. This is a thing that's only using your central vision. So it's a strategy and a tactic. It's not so much an exercise because we do ultimately want to be able to use our peripheral vision. And that's something you could talk to your physical therapist about. But generally, focusing on the point ahead of you is going to be something that's helpful. Next is go with someone and or use an assistive device. So if you can bring a friend or family member who is understanding, who is kind, who kind of knows about what's going on with your vestibular disorder, with your different symptoms, that can be really helpful. I recommend that if it's someone you feel comfortable doing this with, holding their hand, because that's going to give you kind of something to ground to in a way. And in general, holding someone's hand just kind of gives you that extra proprioceptive touch. That's really helpful. So going with someone is good for that. And it's also really great to be like, hey, I'm not feeling super hot. I'm going to go outside and kind of sit for a minute, which is another tip, but go with someone, use them for mental and emotional support. Being able to talk to someone throughout your trip at the store is also going to be helpful. Plus, they can help you get your chores done faster. So if you're like, I'm going to go to the aisle with the produce and you go get some bread, that can make that go more quickly. Then an assistive device. So something like a walking stick, urban pulling poles, a cane, any of those types of things are going to be really helpful. Now, if you're in like a grocery store, using the cart can work as your assistive device. But if you're like, I don't want to use that, that's totally fine. Or if you're going to a store that doesn't have carts, this is also totally fine. Using walking sticks is going to be really, really helpful. So you can get one on Amazon. I can link one in the show notes that I feel like is pretty reasonable. But a walking stick, again, can give you that extra proprioception. Generally, people will avoid running into you a little bit more, which I think can also be really helpful. So you're not bumping into people. And it's going to help you with your balance. So it's just going to kind of give you a little bit more extra support and help in the store. So that's a really good thing to remember. Then, of course, taking breaks, especially seated breaks. So I know malls can be really overwhelming, but if you are going to go into one, I think that's awesome. I think that's great. Typically in the center, there is a place with a place to sit. Not always, but generally there is. So if you can take a seated break in the store, if you're feeling really overwhelmed, just like hold your stuff with you and pretend you're going on your phone, or go on your phone, or just even sit there. And then sit there and even close your eyes. No one is thinking about you as much as you are thinking about you. And I think a lot of the times we get really caught up in like, people are going to think I'm weird, or like this looks funny, or like people are going to think I'm doing something strange. Nobody is thinking about you. I promise this. So like, just go sit in the middle, close your eyes, do some grounding, take some deep breaths, remind your body you're safe, because your body and brain likely are currently relating the mall and busy environments to something that's unsafe. So the more that you can kind of sit and feel safe in this is going to also help you long term, not just during the holiday season. I also recommend that you start these kind of tasks now. And I know that it's already November 7th, if you're listening to this on the day it comes out. So the holidays truly are already here. If you are a person who shops for the holidays to get gifts for people, whatever it is, start now, or even starting a few weeks ago. And if you didn't start a few weeks ago and you're just listening to this now, it's totally not too late, but start now. Because if you have all your shopping done before Thanksgiving, I know that's not ideal because sales in America at least happen on Black Friday, but a lot of the times we can at least have our stuff picked out that we're going to buy on Black Friday or Cyber Monday or Small Business Saturday or whatever insane shopping traditions we have in the United States, honestly. But if you can start now, this strategy is really, really helpful. Things you know don't typically go on sale, or things that you're like, I can just kind of stock up on these things. Start doing this now so that the week before Christmas, the week before Hanukkah, the week before you need to actually start giving these gifts out. If again, you're a person who gives and receives gifts, not everyone is, and that's totally fine. But if you are a person who participates in that, I think that's great. Starting early, being prepared. Honestly, half of living with a vestibular disorder and doing really well living with a vestibular disorder is preparation and being prepared for things. So be prepared for the holidays as soon as you possibly can. The next thing I want to talk about is travel. So we have an entire module on travel in Vestibular Group Fit and tons of tips and tricks from other people who have posted about this in the Facebook group that you can search for. So if you are traveling this holiday season and you're in Vestibular Group Fit, that's fantastic. Search travel or plane or something like that, and you will find in the Facebook group these extra tips. And then, of course, you can go see the travel module as well. If you are not a Vestibular Group Fit member, you can always become one. The link is in the show notes. It is my comprehensive group program to help you thrive and manage your vestibular disorder. You are going to live and thrive with a vestibular disorder in Vestibular Group Fit. So I'm going to give you every single tool that you need to do that in there. And one of the things is a travel module. So a couple of tips I can give you here. I have first linked an article as well in the show notes, but here are some quick trip tips. So if you are on a plane, train, automobile, boat, I don't care what it is, there are a couple of things that you should always be doing before, during, and after. So the first thing is come prepared for the ride. So think hydration, electrolytes, snacks, comfy clothes, good shoes, anything that you're like, I typically need this on a day, or I need this on a day where I'm feeling extra stress, bring it. Bring your meds, all the things that you think you could need. And of course, you don't want to like be carrying around an extra suitcase full of all the things you need, but the things that you like the most. So typically people will have like a pouch or something like that, and they put their meds, a couple extra snacks, an extra pack of electrolytes, a water bottle, or you can always buy one wherever you're going. Things like that can be really helpful and kind of stave off an attack or raise your threshold to an attack. Staying as close to your normal routine as you possibly can will be really, really helpful. As much as you can, next, take breaks. So before you get onto whatever thing you're using to travel, whether it's a car, a plane, whatever, take a break, take a rest, do some breathing, do some grounding. Know that, yes, this thing could make me feel a little bit dizzy, but we're going to do everything we can to abate that. So we are doing breathing and grounding, regulating our nervous system beforehand. During the trip, if you can take a break, like if you're in a car or something, pull over, take a short walk, take some fresh air in, do some breathing exercises. Things like that will all really be helpful during the car ride. And then when you get there, take a walk to do a little bit of a reset. So I always tell people to plan to arrive at night and kind of sleep it off. But my number one thing when you get there is to make sure that you are doing a reset. So travel is really dehydrating. So part of your reset probably should be extra water and electrolytes. And then give yourself a day once you've gotten there. If work and things and life accommodates for it, I always tell people to arrive a day early if possible, in order to kind of give yourself a day to be like, you know what, yesterday was a lot. Today is my day to rest, and then tomorrow I'll be participating in the festivities. I really recommend doing that, because arriving at night, taking a walk, getting some food, and then sleeping off whatever kind of gunk might be there can really, really be helpful. And if you need more help with travel than just this, I'm sure I'll do a podcast episode on it, but nothing will be as thorough as the travel module in Vestibular Group Fit. The next thing that I want to specifically talk about in this episode is dealing with sensory overload. The holidays are merry and bright, as they say, right? So it's going to be a lot of lights, it's going to be a lot of singing, it's going to be a lot of movement, it's going to be a lot of just everything. So I want you to focus on taking breaks and bringing the tools that are going to help you. There typically are not times where you're like, I can just avoid everything, right? Even if you're like walking down your street, there's like Christmas lights and stuff, right? So what I want you to think of is, how can I make my life easier? What things can I do to accommodate myself? So things like bringing your Loops earplugs, bringing your Avalux glasses, which are the only migraine glasses that are science backed by research, which I literally am obsessed with. Excuse yourself as much as you need to go to the bathroom. Remember, no one is thinking about you as much as you are thinking about you. So if you excuse yourself 5 times to the bathroom, literally no one cares. Stay hydrated as much as you can. Take those electrolytes, because sodium and potassium are what makes your nerve cells fire. And so if you don't have enough electrolytes in your body, it's harder for your brain to talk to itself. So I recommend that as well. And then set a stopping time. If you're going to a party, whether it's a work thing, whether you're someone's date to something, whether it's a family event, whether it's literally anything, a restaurant, something, doesn't matter what it is, set yourself a stopping time. And what I mean by that is if the thing starts at 5, you're like, by 8 o'clock, I'm leaving. I personally have a pretty strict bedtime. And even in the holidays, even in the midst of everything, I'm just like, I'm going home. And I know everyone's like, well, I get FOMO. So do I. But I promise you, almost never is there something that like amazing that has happened that you will miss. That happens very, very rarely. And if you do miss it, someone will have had it recorded on their phone, I guarantee. Nothing is as important as your personal routine. You are personally responsible for yourself, right? We all are responsible for ourselves. So set yourself a stopping time. Say, I'm going home at 8:30, whether anyone likes it or not. That is great. It doesn't have to be 8:30. You can set yourself a stopping time for whatever time you want. But I really, really, really recommend setting yourself a stopping time at some point so you have an expectation, you have a boundary, and you can get the rest that you need because you cannot give from an empty cup. So we want to be prioritizing ourselves, prioritizing our own cup as much as we possibly can, especially throughout the holidays. And in Vestibular Group Fit, we're doing a like mindfulness meditation challenge right now, which you can totally join in the middle of. And that is going to be really helpful for you to kind of every single day be like, I am going to do a meditation. I'm going to do a mindfulness exercise. I'm going to do something that prioritizes me today throughout the holidays because I think when everything starts to be like, oh my gosh, I have this and this and this and this and that throughout the holidays, we forget to be like, oh my gosh, I matter too. And so set time aside for yourself. I promise you it will make a difference. Now, as much as I want you to stick to your routine, right? That's not always possible. So, how do we handle changes in our routine? Maybe you're going to visit someone, maybe someone's visiting you. And I know when that happens, sometimes the bedtime cannot be stuck to. Sometimes we have to get up a little bit earlier. Sometimes there's extra weird stuff in our day and we don't get all the exact things we'd like to in a day. As much as you can, prioritize the things that you know work for you. So, setting yourself a bedtime routine. Um, do the same things you would do at home if you're on vacation. Bring all your little like nightly routine things, your skin oil, your hair oil, your skincare routine, all the things that you would normally use at home. Try to bring as many of those things as you can. And I know that like truly when I try to do this, I need like a whole other suitcase sometimes, I feel like, but like that's okay. Just bring the most important ones and always bring your meds plus extra, your supplements, things like that, plus extra, because you never know when a flight is going to get canceled and you need extra stuff. Just pack extra. There's nothing wrong with it. I really recommend it and keep it in your carry on rather than in a bag that might get gate checked or something like that if you're flying. And just as much as I recommend a bedtime, I really recommend a waking up time. Too much sleep and too little sleep can both trigger extra dizziness and extra attack days. So I really, really, really recommend setting yourself a wake up time because if you're like every day I get up at 6:30, last night I hardly slept at all, throwing off that routine can be something that throws off the routine for the rest of the week as well. So trying to get up at that same time anyway, and then setting yourself that bedtime again and be like, I have to go to bed at this time tonight will be way more effective than kind of wobbling between two funky different schedules. If you are traveling with a time change, which I know a lot of us like fly across the country during the holidays, a lot of people swear by electrolytes plus extra omega 3s to help with the jet lag. And of course, ask your doctor before that you are going to start a new supplement, but a lot of people swear by this and say it's super, super helpful. Another thing that I talk about all the time on Instagram, and I am going to mention again here, is getting the 10 minutes of sunlight first thing in the morning. It's 10 minutes if it's sunny outside, 30 minutes if it's cloudy outside. This is so, so, so important because that's what sets your circadian rhythm. And your circadian rhythm is the way that hormones and different things in your body are released. And this one specifically is going to set that, like, this is my wake up time. And in 16-ish hours, I need to go to bed so I can sleep for 8 hours. That's what that 10 minutes of sunlight is going to do in the morning. And so I highly recommend doing it, especially if you are changing time zones, especially if you're feeling stressed, especially if you're feeling like you cannot sleep. Seriously, as much as you possibly can, stick to whatever routine you can, or be like, I do these 10 things in my routine. I'm going to make sure that I keep these three. And instead of just like throwing everything that you've worked so hard on out the window, try to stick to a couple of things that you know are tangible. Whether that's I get up and do my 10 minutes of sunlight and then I meditate, I do a couple of deep breaths as I'm getting out of bed in the morning. Whatever those things are, try to stick to your own routine. I do have a whole like morning routine module in Vestibular Group Fit. If you are interested in getting yourself a new morning routine, you'll be able to find that there. The next thing that I really want to dive into is communicating your needs to family and friends. And I know that this can be so hard because either people ask too much about it, or people are like, why does no one ask about it or respect my boundaries? And remember that, first of all, when we talk about boundaries, they are so, so important. Everyone should be having boundaries. I've recently discovered boundaries in like the last 2 years. I love them. They're really hard to set, and they're the hardest to set with your own family. So difficult because this is the way you've lived for 20, 30, 40, 50 years or even longer. And you're like, these people know me super well, and I'm trying to make a change. And I want to recognize just how difficult truly that this is. So if you're like, I do not know how to communicate that I'm busy with my family doesn't listen, it is your job to set the boundary. It is their job to respect the boundary. And if your boundary, if your expectation does not get met, you get to evaluate, how does this make me feel? And how can I remind them about my boundary or respond appropriately? Remember, your job is to set the boundary and their job is to respect your boundary. I also want you to remember that your health is likely the least interesting thing about you. So even if you've been dealing with this vestibular disorder, if it's new, if it's old, if it's something you've been dealing with long term or short term, whatever it is likely the least interesting thing about you. And so if you do not want to talk about it, you do not have to talk about it. So here are some things that maybe you could try if someone keeps asking you, like, can you do that? Are you sure? Can you do that? First of all, you can say, yes, I'm sure this is my body. It's my choice to do XYZ. If I want to take a beach walk, I can take a beach walk. Um, Reminding people gently that like this is your own choice and no one should be pressuring you to do one thing or another. Saying, I'm fine. Thank you so much for your concern. I'd rather not talk about my health right now. What's new with you? And just changing the subject, switching it back to them. People love to talk about themselves, truly. So just ask them a question and listen to them talk. Remembering that you do not have to tell anyone any information that you do not want to. You can also say, I'd prefer not to talk about my health today. How's your dog doing? Like literally anything like that can change the subject and will be helpful. You can also just be like, me and my doctor are working on it. It's not really something I want to talk about right now. What is going on with you? How have your holidays been? Has it been crazy? Has it been stressful? How's the end of your school year going? How is your job going? Like you can ask them so many different questions. So have a kind of a list in your head of like questions you can ask people so they stop bothering you about your personal health. Because again, it's likely the least interesting thing about you. And you can even change the subject if you do want to tell them about something else and be like, I'd prefer not to talk about that, but I got a new job, or, but I've really been doing this new hobby, or I've gotten really into crochet, want to see what I've done. I've got really into painting, literally whatever it is, whether you've recently gotten into walking, to painting, to crocheting, to reading or audible, or I want to tell you about my new book I've been reading. Any of those things can be more interesting and more fun to talk about. And I think people feel awkward and they typically have the best of intentions when they're asking you these questions. Like, I don't think typically people are asking this just to like make you mad or frustrated or anything like that. But when it happens over and over again, it does get really frustrating. So knowing when you're going in, like this person is not like seeking to hurt me or something like that, but I don't really want to talk about it. And so I'm going to have a couple other things that I can think of to talk about. And again, it could be like I started doing a coloring book, which I recently did start doing a coloring book. And it's my favorite mindfulness activity. I've been doing it every night. It's my literal favorite thing. It's Harry Potter themed. It was the last one left at Target, and I have no regrets about it. So literally anything could be more something else you could talk about. And if you really feel like they're not getting it and you're like, I need to give them a resource, or they're asking questions and being genuinely interested and do want to know about it, but like, I don't want to have to talk about it, I do have a free masterclass on this, which I will also link. It is called Things People with a Vestibular Disorder Wish Their Partners Knew. And it is like based on someone you'd be in a partnership with, but literally I address everyone. Like your mom could watch it, your sibling could watch it, your aunt and uncle could watch it, your employer could watch it. Anyone could watch it and probably get a lot of use out of it as well. So I recommend going about it that way. Some other tips and tricks that I did want to put out there is shopping online and making sure to get stuff ordered and delivered in advance. I know personally, even if I use Amazon, it takes 7 to 10 days because that's how things are out where I live, even with Prime and stuff. But if you can, shopping online, doing it in increments so that scrolling isn't so hard and things like that. You can also tell people to be like, what do you want? I will get it for you. If that is an option for you or for them, and prep those gifts in advance. Also, order things pre-gift wrapped so you do not have to wrap them. Because I know that like small motor skills and staring at a lot of stuff for a long period of time can be super, super irritating. If you are currently on a strict heal your headache diet or other migraine diet, remember, first of all, this is a short-term diet. I will never shut up about this. This is not something you should be on forever. But if you are in the middle of that like 90 to 100 days of HYH that you need to do before you start bringing stuff back in, bring yourself a dish that you know that you can eat. Typically, there's more than one thing that you can eat, but bring something that you can share. Maybe pack some extra snacks that you don't share in case there's literally nothing else you can eat. But typically, there are other things that you can eat. And you can even give yourself some leeway there and be like, message the host and be like, hey, I'd love to bring something. I'm on a super strict diet right now for a health condition. You don't have to share much more than that. You can even say, like, I'm on a really strict diet over the holidays. It won't be the first time someone says that. Um, and so bring a dish that you know that you can eat, ask them what will nicely complement them, and then go to the Dizzy Cooks website and search for something that you can eat and that you can bring, which can also be super helpful. Next is keep your blood sugar balanced. This is a super important one. A lot of attacks happen because of giant fluctuations in blood sugar and in hydration. So number one, keep your blood sugar balanced. The second you get up in the morning, a 1 hour time clock starts. Eat 20 to 30 grams of protein, usually in that 1 hour time zone is what most dietitians recommend. Then every 3 to 4 hours afterwards, you should be eating another food, hopefully a protein, a carb, and a fat, some combination of that. Doesn't have to be a full meal every 3 to 4 hours, of course, but typically eating a snack and then a meal and then a snack, and then a meal throughout the day is going to be really helpful. Then staying super hydrated, having electrolyte. Most human beings, like 75% of human beings or something like that, are dehydrated, which means if you are listening to this right this second, it is more than likely that you are dehydrated. So, because of that statistic, an electrolyte, not the ones with tons of sugar. Two of my favorites are Element, spelled LMNT, unflavored, it has no stevia in it. Scratch, SKRATCH Labs. You can get it at Whole Foods or on Amazon. Those are two of my favorite ones. You can also make one. If you Google like electrolyte recipe, you can make some with like maple syrup and coconut water and stuff like that. Staying really hydrated is so, so important. And then make time for yourself when activities start to build up. You are allowed to say no. Practice it in the mirror. No, I'm busy. No, sorry, I can't. No, sorry, I have other plans. No, sorry, I have plans with myself. I have been saying that lately, and it is really empowering and also kind of awkward to say, but also really empowering. Because through the holidays, you really, really, really want to prioritize self care and mental health. So, emphasizing the importance of this, I cannot stress enough because the holidays are really stressful and really taxing. And truly, sometimes spending time with your family, even though they're the people you probably love the most, maybe not, but usually, sometimes, I guess, prioritizing yourself in that stressful situation is incredibly important. So I really, really, really recommend that you set yourself some boundaries, practice mindfulness, maintain your good diet, stay active, remembering that you can do a vestibular group fit workout from anywhere in the world. It's at your fingertips 24/7. So staying active, continuing an exercise routine, whatever that movement routine looks like for you, getting plenty of sleep, staying hydrated, connecting with people who you do really love and like, Setting yourself realistic expectations. Do not aim for perfect. Set yourself an expectation of like 80%. Create yourself a relaxing environment if you can and when you can. Decorate your own space if you're staying in a room. Bring things that are relaxing to you. Bring things that you find are helpful at home and make you feel kind of calm and at peace. Practice gratitude. I know everyone hates this suggestion, but it is really helpful and it does work. If you can write down 1 to 5 things every single day that you are grateful for today in this moment, that can be really helpful as well. Travel wisely, leave early, be efficient, have a backup plan just in case. Remember, being prepared is the key to success when you are managing a vestibular disorder. That might not be the only thing, but it's one of the top things is being prepared. And then, of course, if you need help, always please do not hesitate to reach out and seek professional help, whether it's from myself, whether it's from a therapist, whether it's from a medical doctor, whoever it is. If you are finding yourself super overwhelmed, you're struggling to manage your vestibular disorder, you're struggling to manage the holiday stress, I am here for you. Other doctors are here for you. There is a community for you. The members in Vestibular Group Fit, I literally cannot stress enough how phenomenal, how fantastic they really are. So I hope this episode was helpful. If you have any other questions, do not hesitate to email me and ask for help and ask for other tips and tricks. Remember, the travel module and the holiday module in Vestibular Group Fit are also going to be really helpful. Keep on moving and grooving as you prepare for the holidays, no matter which ones you celebrate in the world. I know in the Philippines, it is already the Burr months, which something I've just learned about. It starts September 1st because it's September, October, November, December. I found that out on an Instagram post, which I thought was super fun and interesting. And maybe you've been dealing with the holidays forever. I know in the States it typically starts with Thanksgiving, and then we have Hanukkah, and then Christmas are typically the main ones people celebrate, but there are so many other holiday parties and holidays in there that I am not mentioning. So no matter who you are, where you live in the world, remember there's always hope. There's always things you can do about dizziness, and I am here to help whenever you need it, whenever you're ready. Happy holidays, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks so much for listening today. Find me on Instagram at the Vertigo Doctor, Dr. Jenna at dizzy.rehab.therapist, and the pod at grounded.vestibular.pod. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to our channel wherever you get this podcast. And if you're interested in working with us, try Vestibular Group Fit, the affordable, comprehensive program that focuses on movement, mindset, support, and education to take you from frustrated and dizzy to feeling in control of your vestibular disorder. Use code GROUNDED at checkout for 10% off your first subscription. Or we can work together one-on-one in California, Virginia, Minnesota, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Wyoming, and Wisconsin. Your success story begins today. Dizziness does not have to be forever. Let's get you the right tools to thrive. Love ya, and we'll see you next time on Grounded.